Hi, and welcome to my channel. My name is Gail Scott, and I am a Galactic Channeler. And today's message comes from a group called the Worshippers. They are a group of angelic beings. And their message today is around a spiritual teaching that I've been talking about for quite a while now. And it's kind of a difficult teaching, so I'm going to try to explain it simply in a way that you'll be able to recognize how it plays out in your life and how to kind of bring the essence of the message into yourself in a way that you can create a richer, more fun-filled life. So they started off with the phrase, consciousness wanted to experience consciousness. So I've explained in some of my other videos that consciousness is really our own self-awareness of ourself, in almost the way that you would recognize that you are someone outside of the person that you are having this physical experience. So they said, it's kind of like saying, you want to be able to experience being the one looking in the mirror and being the one in the mirror. So there is some talk around the spiritual world and the consciousness world that the world is a mirror. That's a very common phrase, and that whatever you put out there is what you get back. It's one of the laws of the universe. And so they have brought forward this teaching, and I'm going to explain a little bit about how it impacts us as human beings having the life that we're living right now. So they've said that the experience of being human is actually quite a unique one, because there are quite a few aspects of being human that are solely and individually only available to us as human beings. For example, the ability to really acknowledge who you are and experience who you are with all of your senses. So in the spiritual world, we're known as sentient beings because we have these 5 senses along with our intuition, the 6th sense. And so we also exist within those senses, within an emotional state. So we're very aware of our emotions and how that is unique to us individually. Of course, we all react differently to different kinds of things with different emotions. And so they said, some other beings do not have this experience. So if you are open to the idea that there are other beings existing in the galaxy, not all of them have this ability to be sentient beings like we are, using our 5 senses and our intuition and our emotional state to have this experience that we have on Earth. And so they've said some beings cannot recognize and acknowledge themselves. They are limited in their experience of themselves because we have this kind of all-in physical, emotional kind of experience as a human being. So they've said, so they're giving us this example of looking in the mirror. They're saying, for some of you, you're not even aware that you are standing looking in a mirror. In fact, you don't even believe there is a mirror. You just exist simply, and you experience yourself at what is really a very basic level. They're saying it's not boring, because life is never boring when you have 5 senses and emotions. But there's no color to the life that you have from a sense of conscious awareness if you don't have this level of consciousness of who you really are. So they've said, for some of you, you're aware that there is a mirror and that there's an effect to that mirror, but you choose to turn around and look in the other direction. And when you do that, in a sense, you stop taking responsibility for seeing yourself, for seeing what is happening, and for seeing what you are creating. They refer to this as denial. And that is something that we as humans tend to use as a tool, especially when it comes to learning about trust. And we can feel safer when we are in denial. And if we knew the power that we all have intuitively, we wouldn't need any kind of denial. But it is a tool that we use, especially for those of us who have been in survival situations. Within families and workplaces, we can use denial to not see what's going on in front of our very eyes. So we become disconnected from that part of us that knows that we can see perfectly well what's going on, but we choose not to. They said, but for some of you, you will recognize that you are standing in front of a mirror, and you'll recognize that you are the one standing in front of the mirror, and that you are the one looking back at yourself in the mirror. And when you get to that place, it's almost like you see yourself, you know yourself, you're aware of yourself, you're almost outside of yourself and being yourself, if that's not too complicated. It can be very exciting, because in that experience, you then begin to recognize, oh, I'm both the cause and the effect of all things that happen in my life. Because if I'm looking in the mirror and I'm lifting my arm, I can see I'm lifting my arm. And what is the impact of that, first for myself, and then also for the people around me? Now, sometimes it's not often a pleasant realization, because all of a sudden now there's no one else to blame but ourselves for anything that happens to us in this experience of life, because we can see that what we're putting out there is what we're getting back. And so now we fall back into denial. Well, am I going to actually look at what's happening in my life? Am I the cause? And is this the effect? And if that's the case, there might be things that you might have to do in order to change what's happening. So they've said some people will argue at this point in the teaching, because they will say, well, then why do bad things happen to good people? And why does illness show up? And why is there misfortune arising for certain individuals? Well, what they're saying now is, yes, that is what appears to be happening, but it's because we have a judgment around an experience that's less than pleasant. So of course this makes sense, because no one likes to feel bad, but the idea is, why are we feeling bad in the first place? That sense of feeling bad is, one, an emotional state, two, it's an opinion or a judgment, and three, it's a perception. And so we have perceptions that say that something that's not pleasant means that it's negative. It's not what we would have wanted. However, we came here to experience everything, and consciousness wanted to experience consciousness. It wanted to experience itself. So here we are. We came here to experience the wide variety of options that are available to us as human beings. And here we are now, when we have a bad thing happen, we judge it. We say it's not good. We say it's bad. We say it's negative. But here's the thing in the spiritual teaching, is that over the millennia, our souls have returned time and time again in human form, in other forms too, in other incarnations, but we're not going to go there in this message. And so we come back to experience all of these different kinds of things. So we'll have had lives that were really, really good. And then we come back to get the contrast. We come back to experience something that's more challenging, to learn and to grow. And the thing is that when we come in to Earth in any particular incarnation, we normally don't remember anything that's happened to us before this lifetime. Because if we did, we would be completely overwhelmed, and we wouldn't be able to experience the growth that we have in this incarnation. So what they're saying is that it's one thing to look at yourself in the mirror and not remember and just go about your life as if you have no control over it. And it's another thing to recognize yourself in the mirror of life and acknowledge it and move through knowing that you have an awareness about yourself so that you don't need to be in denial. You can use this self-awareness, this awareness of your own consciousness to learn and grow as you go about your life. Now, the reason why they're bringing this message to us right now is because, as I've mentioned in many of my videos, we are up leveling from 3D to 5D. And at this point in time, our awareness of ourselves, we've been in denial for so long, we've been in a fog, basically. In fact, the mirror has been covered over that we couldn't even see that there was a mirror or that we were in it. That's being lifted. And as we move forward and our planet evolves from 3D to 5D, that mystery, that shroud, that fog is going to disappear. And who you really are is going to be revealed to you. And so in this message, for example, listening to this message, you can now have a greater idea of who you really are if you embrace this teaching that you actually get to be the cause and effect in your life. And if you choose to stay on the planet as we move through this, you can become aware in a sense that you are everything, anything and everything. And you get to choose. And so that all your decisions and all your actions based on all those choices, resulting in all those different experiences, are being led and instigated and guided and created and evolved from yourself, from your own being. And that can be a little bit of a challenging thing to accept, that you're the one who's making it all happen. So let's go back to the beginning. They said at the very beginning, consciousness wanted to experience consciousness. Well, what does that mean? What they're saying here is that consciousness started off, the Almighty, God, Source, universe, omnipotent energy, whatever you want to call, whatever it is that is in charge of everything, it really wanted to experience more. And if we don't use that as our foundation, then, you know, we don't really have anything to stand on. But that, of course, is everyone's choice. You don't have to believe this message that I'm bringing to you. This is just an option. This is my perception. It's my understanding. It's what's come through me. If you don't like this message, it's fine. Turn it off. Go do something else. I'm just giving you something different to think about. So they've said, so if consciousness, source energy, God, whatever you want to call it, decided to create itself in so many different forms, why would it do that? Well, it did that so that it could experience everything, all of the different possibilities that are available to it and to us, and we're just one form. So it said, well, it would need some energy, some shape shifting, some metamorphosis to experience itself in all these different forms. And so in its wisdom, it chose to create itself, one, in the human form, so that it could elevate itself and morph itself into many forms. And then over time, it would evolve into even higher states of being and different forms of structure and different practical matter. And so in all kinds of ways, it would get to experience itself, and it would learn and grow as it went. And of course, because we live in a dualistic world, meaning that there is two sides to everything. It's not all bliss yet. Then we get to experience what seems to be less than positive, what seems to be less than pleasant, simply for that experience to have that. And when we can come from a place of non-judgment around that, then there's a sense of peace in that growth and learning experience. So what you want to really understand is that, yes, you are this big human being, but within your body, every single solitary cell that you have, and there are trillions of them, they each have their own level of conscious awareness. And that, in a sense, some of these cells will take certain kinds of action based on a certain level of consciousness. And so some of them will last for a long time and some of them won't. And some of them will shift and change depending on what they experience in life. So as you're moving through every day, recognize that your physical form contains these trillions of tiny, minute cells of consciousness, and together they create for you this larger experience of life that you're having every day. And that's really what brings the variety of what it means to be human in the world. And it's true not just for us as human beings on planet Earth, but it's true for every form of life on planet Earth and not on planet Earth. So we won't go there because there's lots of different things out there, but that's not the nature of this message. So there are many ways that you can personally experience your life. There's many ways that you can see yourself in this mirror. For example, you can be tactile with the mirror. You can touch the mirror. You can become the mirror. You can live within the mirror. You can recognize that there's a steady flow of energy in the mirror experience going back and forth between you and the creator that is you, that lives within you, and that you are the creator, the created, and you are the cause of everything. And that's a difficult thing for people to really take on when things are not going well. When things are going well, oh, it's easy. Yes, I created this in my life. But then when things are not so good, don't really want to admit that I created this also. And sometimes because of our lack of conscious awareness, we don't know why. We don't know how we did that. So that takes a little bit more deep diving to kind of figure that out. But when we choose to ignore that mirror, we choose to not see ourselves as the cause and effect and not take responsibility. That's a whole different kind of life that we're having. And that's okay too. You have every right to do that. So this message, they've told me, is an introduction. It's an introduction to the idea that we're more than who we think we are. In fact, they give the example that we're the actor, we're the acting, and we're the act. And we're not only just that, but there's also everyone around us who's also playing the game or on the stage with us. And so sometimes these individuals are, well, actually not sometimes, all the time, these individuals are kind of playing in the background for us so that we can have this mirror experience. So let's go back to the beginning again. Consciousness wanted to experience consciousness. Well, why? Well, so that it could have fun, so it could experience itself, so that it could learn more and grow and gain in its wisdom and play. And yes, there are different elements to that kind of experience because life isn't always happy. There are some experiences that are not always positive. But it depends on our perception. It depends on our view as to whether or not a negative experience is a negative experience. And if you look at it from all doom and gloom. And if you think about it, there are many people on this planet, myself included, who have had many different breakdown experiences in their lives where we've had to transition out of denial and out of understanding that we were the cause, and that if we choose to change, and view things differently and behave differently and think differently and act differently, then actually we can get a very different result. And when we look at them as negative, we're not seeing the learning and the growing. And I know that from my own personal experience, where I've had to really look in the mirror at who I was being and decide what I was creating for myself. Was I having good relationships? Were they filled with love and acceptance and non-judgment? Or was there less of that and more of the other kind? And so often we'll also speak with family members or friends or associates who have had very negative experiences, whether it's been abuse or trauma or difficulties at work or health issues. And when they've come through that, at the end of that, they've discovered that it was a gift, that they grew and that they learned, and they discovered more about what was important to them and how they wanted to live their life on planet Earth. And so you can view your negative experiences or your breakdowns in life as bad, but it takes an elevated state of being to be able to turn that around and see it just as an experience that you're having, and giving you the option of just seeing it as growth, as expansion, as learning. So whatever you want to call this greater power, God, source, whatever, the divine, it doesn't view any of this from a negative perspective. It doesn't see any negative as being bad. It just sees negative as negative. And this is simply language. We make things mean certain things when we say a word and have an experience or have an emotional state around it. So maybe you could think about shifting your perspective on something that is less than pleasant, and perhaps you judge it as being negative. But what if it just is? What if it just is what it is? The experience is just an experience. This will really elevate your own level of being and your own level of consciousness. So as you go about your day, begin to notice, well, are you observing yourself? Are you judging yourself? Are you able to notice that an experience that you might have thought before was very negative, that you might be able to see the growth in it, or just simply be neutral about it? And even just see it as, wow, I'm going through something and I'm learning. And as much as I don't enjoy it, maybe there's something I don't know yet about myself. And could you take a deep dive into yourself and maybe see what that might be? That's kind of the work that I do with my private clients, where we really explore their beliefs and their attitudes and their patterns and their actions. And that's really where transformation happens, when you can do that. So you're going to kind of go in and out of this as you move forward. Now that you've heard this story, if you've already heard it before, then that's just a repetition. But you're going to jump in and out of this reality of evolution as a human being, and recognize that as our planet upgrades, as you upgrade, as you become more aware in this 5D, that you'll drop the perception of judgment, that you'll be more heart-centered, that you'll be less judgmental, that you'll let go, that you'll be able to surrender into what is, rather than having this view that something is one way or another. It'll give you an ability really to be more just living the experience, recognizing that your state, your being, your body, your cells, everything is having this experience of consciousness, having an experience of itself. And that there's so many different ways that we can do that. Lots of colors and form and textures and shapes and sizes, and every single one of them is unique. So as you're going through life, let go of any of the monotony and begin to have the view of the value of it and the technicolor with which you can live your life, and to begin to really play into your senses, because that's really why we're here. We're here to play. We're here to dive into all of these different kinds of experiences and see what they'll be like and see what they can bring for us. And so recognize that you've already done this many, many, many times before. If you're listening to this message and you're still listening to this message, it means that chances are you have had lots and lots of lives where you've experienced all kinds of things that have shifted your physical form, your mental state, your spiritual awareness, and that all of this brings a lot of color and texture and form to this life that you're living now. And as you move through this heavy 3D energy that we've been in for such a long time, and you move out of it and through 4D is really this awareness experience that you're having. And when you go up into 5D, you'll actually begin to be aware of some of those past experiences. That will help you. You'll begin to recognize why you know about certain things or why you enjoy certain things. And it's because you've already had experiences as those in past lives. And so this is really, really an exciting time for us on planet Earth, because we're all evolving our own level of consciousness, and it can get to be so much deeper, more tactile, more sensual. And when we say sensual, we're meaning more fully engaged with all of your senses as a human being. And so you're less kind of asleep and you're more really tapped into who you really are. And if you can use your 5 senses to really explore things more deeply, taste things more deeply, hear things more clearly, see things more acutely, and use your 6th sense of intuition, then you'll know things more deeply as well. And also get a sense of something called proprioception. And that is this ability to be able to be aware of yourself in the spatial arena that you take up, where you exist within existence, understanding that you have form and that it has movement, and that as you become more and more aware of yourself and everything that's around you, you can actually connect more deeply to the idea that you are consciousness, experiencing consciousness. And when you can connect to that within yourself and you begin to play within that, life becomes infinitely more fun. And you're not going to see things in nearly the same way as you have before. And it's a journey. We are on a journey. We're on a journey of exploration, of innovation, and a lot of experimentation as we are moving through these really challenging and yet exciting times, knowing that we are so well supported from the galaxy. And these messages that I'm bringing through in these channeling videos are to assist you, to help you to understand what's happening and why, and how you can have a better experience of it all. And so you do play a part. You are playing a very important part in this evolution of our species, of our planet, of our life. And it's a really beautiful thing. And yes, it's not all easy and flowing. Some of it is challenging and uphill climbing, but that is what makes it this beautiful, rich tapestry of an experience of being alive on planet Earth. So thank you for listening to this message today. This is a longer one, but I think it is really, really important. And as always, if you have enjoyed it and you would like to learn more about this, please subscribe to my channel and also to my newsletter. All the links are listed below. And until next time, sending you lots and lots of love. And thank you once again for watching and listening.